Welcome to today's program, and thank you very much for attending. My name is Harvey Gross. I'm the Executive Director of New York Institute of Credit. For over 16 years, this event has been run tremendously, and it started off with NYIC and ABF Journal trying to do a conference together, so we elected to go to Villanova. We did that, and then along the way, TMA Philly and SFNet Philly joined with us. We had 10 great years with Villanova, and we've had 6 super years here at the Union League Club, and today will be another great event. Just a show of hands, could I see who has never been to one of these events before? Just raise your hand. We're not asking you to sing or anything, we just want to get an idea. Okay. Just a couple of words, by the way, we did have a few down years because of COVID, so guilty with an explanation on that. I want to thank the NYSC board, any sponsors today, which there'll be a lot of illustrations of who they are. We have 13 sponsors for today. Thanks to all the NYIC, Diamond, Gold, Silver, corporate and individual members, all our advocates, all the judges who speak for us. And it's just been a pleasure for 107 years. So it's my pleasure at this time to introduce Mark Indelicato, the chairman of New York Institute of Credit.
Thank you, Harvey. So I've been involved with this event since it started. And I got involved because it was at Villanova, and my good fortune was I had 3 children at Villanova at the same time. So I decided that, well, that was a good opportunity to visit them. So I would do this event. I'd get the firm to pay for the train ticket, and I'd come. But I figured, well, now I needed to populate a judges panel. And so I called my old friend Kevin Gross. And I said, Kevin, would you get on a panel with me? And he said, why, sure, but I think you should get Kevin the Jr. too. I said, Kevin the Jr. He said, Kevin Carey, why don't you call him? I said, well, I have a case before Kevin. It's somewhat contentious. I feel odd calling him. Would you speak to him? And so that's how Kevin Carey started coming here to this event. And I will tell you that over the last 15 years, whenever I picked up the phone to call Kevin and ask him to do me a favor and come to this event, he actually was thrilled to come and said, you know, I would absolutely come and I would be there. And many of you don't know this, but it actually was not without some angst on his part. Judge Shannon will know the story, but we did have a contentious case together. And somebody who was a pro se litigant took a picture of me at the podium and Judge Carey next to us and sent it to the Third Circuit. So then Kevin had to explain his relationship with me. And he said, he's a lawyer, I'm a judge, that's what it is. But he never once said, oh, Mark, I really shouldn't do this. He always came to bat. You're going to hear this afternoon stories about Kevin's excellence as a jurist, excellence as a lawyer, and we're going to do a little bit of the top 10 hits of Kevin Carey on his cases. And I will tell you, unfortunately, as I went through them, I was on the losing end of quite a few of them. But I still did hold it against him. But to define Kevin as a man, we were at the cocktail reception at the first event we had, and Kevin heard me talking to somebody else that I had 3 daughters at Villanova at once. He did not bat an eye. He did not stop for a moment. He pulled out his business card, and he wrote his home number and his cell phone number on it, and he handed it to me. And he said, if your children ever need anything, I'm just a stone's throw away. Give me a call no matter what time of the day or night. And I carried that card for many years. Actually, I carried that card until this morning, until I returned it to its rightful owner. I gave it to Denise to show what a man he was. And he's just not as a jurist, but because of a true human being. There was one thing that Kevin and I joked about for the last 15 years, or actually less than 15 years. We both were awarded an award by the New York Institute of Credit the same year. My luck is I went first and Kevin went second. If those of you who were at the event might remember it, I had my wife and some of my children there, and I said, this is the great opportunity for me to thank my wife for all she's done, raising my children, and I made what I thought was a very nice thank you speech to my wife. And then Kevin got up. My God! Oh, Denise is the apple of my eye. She takes my breath away. And the truth of the matter is, you saw it in their eyes. They were absolutely adoring each other. And I said to Kevin when he got off, I said, you should at least give me warning. I mean, I could have prepared a little bit of a better speech here. I thought I did good, but you sort of surpassed me. Well, when I decided to do this again this year without Kevin for the first time, I really didn't think it was appropriate to do it without naming the event in honor of Kevin. Really, this event came together with his assistance, and he was always here. Jeffrey Hampton and I sort of spearheaded the effort, but there were a lot of people that were in favor of it. And so from this day forward, it will be known as the Kevin Carey Philadelphia Credit Symposium. And it's a true honor to him. It's justified, it's worthy, and he really was a terrific human being. And not only did he and I share this event, but we also shared TMA. Kevin was one of the first crossovers from ABI to TMA, and maybe the only one to serve as president of both. But when I asked him if he was interested in getting involved in TMA, he said, hell yeah, and he jumped in with both feet. And when I became chair of TMA, they started having martinis at the receptions. When Kevin became chair, it was bourbon. And so we would both have he would have the bourbon, I would have the martinis. And we had a great time. He was a great leader. He was a great champion for our industry. And he really was a champion of education. So it was with no hesitation that we named this event in Kevin's honor. You'll hear more about his prowess as a jurist later, but now I'd like to introduce Chris Ward, who will talk about Kevin as the ABI president.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Ward from Paulson Elliott. So the first time I'm announcing myself as the immediate past president of the ABI, as my term just ended this past weekend at our spring meeting. But I was very fortunate serving in ABI leadership because when I became ABI president-elect, Kevin Carey was the ABI immediate past president. So I got a lot of advice as to how to handle the role as ABI president for the past year. Such fantastic advice like when you go out after dinner, just put a lime in your club soda. It doesn't have to be tequila all the time. But didn't always adhere to that, but it was great advice at the time, and I really appreciate it. Thank you to Denise and the family for coming out today. It is an honor to have this conference named after Judge Carey. I think following up on Mark's comments, Kevin really brought everyone together. That's how I thought about it. There was the TMA involvement, there was the ABI involvement, there was INSOL. He was a fellow of the American College. He was the chief judge of the Delaware Bankruptcy Court, and he was the global chair of TMA and the ABI president, which, as Mark said, there's only been one. And you need someone like that to bring all of these organizations together. We're all practicing in the same field. We're all friends. We all do the same things. And you need someone like Kevin Carey to bring everybody together. Kevin was very practical. My favorite practice story was I had a very litigious case where he was the judge, and we got done our oral argument, and he pulled everybody back in chambers, and he just looked at me and said, Mr. Ward, just tell me what you want. I just don't understand what you want. I will get it done, but tell me what you want. And everyone in the room just looked at each other and told Kevin what we wanted, and Judge Carey said, okay, give me a minute. And he came out the bench and gave a preliminary ruling, which was not going to be in my favor, and everyone went back to their respective corners, and we cut a deal. but he read the room and he called the balls and strikes as he needed to. But it was that kind of, just bringing that room together is really what he was all about. So I am honored to be here on behalf of the ABI to honor Judge Carey and have this conference named after him. So I hope everyone enjoys the conference. Thank you.
I have just a few announcements I want to make. First, Denise Carey asked me to thank everyone for coming. Her and her daughters had to leave early. Unfortunately, one of their children was ill and they needed to get home. But they're very appreciative of this event being named after Judge Carey. The other thing I just want to sort of, and Denise Carey asked me just to mention, upon Kevin's passing, in recognition of his dedication to Villanova and education, the Carey family started a scholarship at Villanova Law School. So I just want to remind everybody that it's an incredible honor and tribute to Judge Carey. So if anybody is so inclined, you just go to the Villanova website and you click through the clicking. Since I've had 3 children there, I know how to donate. And you ultimately will get to a point where it says in honor of, you can put the Kevin Carey Memorial Scholarship. And I know the family would greatly appreciate any contributions people can make. And the final announcement is we're going to do something a little different this year than we normally do. We're going to have the views from the benches and the normal topics. Some of them you've heard already for a few years. But at the beginning of this, we're going to do sort of a discussion of Judge Carey's greatest hits. And as Judge Shannon was passing out the list, I was humbled to say how many of those cases I was involved on. And unfortunately, I was on the losing end, but he was still a great judge. So I would ask Judges Shannon and Haran to come up, and we can get started. So Judge Shannon, you will lead us in the top 10 Judge Carey decisions.
I will, and it is really a privilege to be here. I don't think it's any secret. Kevin Carey was one of my closest friends, and I refer to him as my mentor from the time that I came on the bench until even long after he left. I would call him for advice and guidance on the crazy things that lawyers in front of me were doing. And he was always a patient-sounding lord and generally had the wisdom to counter my worst instincts. And so as many people here, I certainly miss him very, very much and mourn his loss, but I think that this is such a wonderful tribute to him, and I know how committed he was for so many years to this program, first when it was at Villanova and now here at the beautiful Union League. So we wanted to talk about some of Kevin's cases, and we've got a handful that we'll go through. We have other topics as well about stuff that's hot and happening in our court that we're happy to share, and we are certainly open to any questions from the audience. But when we think about Kevin Carey's tenure, I would remind you, and I think since we're in Philadelphia, most of you know this, he first went on the bench in 2001 in Philadelphia. And so he was on the bench for almost 5 years in Philadelphia. We had openings, 4 new seats were created in Delaware in 2005, and in 2006 he came in and was sworn in with me and with Chris Sanchi and with Kevin Gross. I'm the last man standing because I have no interest in making any money ever in my life. So Kevin came in and was incredibly helpful to us. We were all new, and he had been on the bench for a long time, and Kevin knew what he was all about, and he was helpful to us in a million different ways. And one of his favorite stories came from his time on the bench in Philadelphia. And as you know, Kevin was a sophisticated commercial practitioner in Philadelphia, had been with a number of firms, Meserole and Fox. And when you become a judge, and this is how we would say it, when you become a judge, you are elevated to the bench. That's the phrase. So you are elevating yourself, and you are set, to decide complicated issues and given that power. And they give you a robe, and they give you a gavel, and they stand when you walk in, and all of your jokes are funny. And so he really loved that kind of power sense and the opportunity to bring his powerful intellect to complex issues, which brings us to the South Philadelphia bra case. So apparently, a woman purchased a bra and went to return it. The saleswoman behind the desk had some attitude about whether or not the return was proper. Words were exchanged. The sales clerk reached across and she took the bag from the purchaser's hand and ripped it away. And in doing so, possibly broke her finger. One of Kevin's first trials was whether or not, when the customer sued and got her judgment against the sales clerk filed for bankruptcy. So one of Kevin and Carey's first mega cases was the South Philadelphia bra case, was in fact the injury to this woman's finger dischargeable. I regret that he did not write a full opinion on it, but man, he loved that story. And the one thing that I always thought was funny about it, besides the fact that it's a pretty good story, non-dischargeability stories are often really kind of hilarious if you're not involved in it. But one of the things that I really I took away and that he did was, in all seriousness, he said it was really valuable to have that experience and recognize that my responsibility is to bring everything that I have to whatever I have the privilege of being asked to decide. And sometimes it's small stuff, sometimes it's big stuff, sometimes it's easy stuff, sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's really stupid. But the idea is that he absorbed that lesson and brought himself to a point where I think that he threw himself at matters large and small. And we're going to talk about some of those cases. We'll talk about Tribune and Citadel and some others that involve 10, 11-figure disputes and all of the finest lawyers in the country and millions of dollars of fees and thousands of pages of briefing. But what I think he learned from that and what he shared, at least with me, that I tried to model is that those considerations don't matter as much. It's a privilege to be asked to adjudicate disputes between people. The system that we have is what is the substitute for hitting each other over the head with sticks. And people come to you for careful decisions, and nobody assumes. There's no guarantee that we're right. They wouldn't have put 3 levels of appeal over me if they assumed that I was perfect. But I think that was actually a really valuable lesson. Turning then to a much different case that I think a lot of folks in the group might be familiar with, in the Tribune case. So Tribune was a massive, massive case with many, many billions of dollars from a failed leverage buyout. It involved a bunch of things, including the sale of the Chicago White Sox that occurred in the first couple days of the case. But the case itself dragged on for years. It was ferociously litigious. And it ended up, I've never even seen anything like this. They had 4 separate competing plans. Ultimately, 2 of those plans went forward, and Judge Carey conducted a competing plan confirmation hearing. I actually been on the bench almost 20 years. I'd never done that. I always told him that I'd never done that because I managed my cases better than he did. But the prospect of a case with, again, many, many billions of dollars at issue, a 200-page examiner report by Ken Klee, and litigants that would go to the furthest extent to to defeat the other side is the sort of thing that takes some time off the back end of your life. And I know some of us were in that, and I'll throw it over to the group, but I would remind you of his confirmation opinion. Kevin was a beautiful writer, and again, I think a very clear and cogent writer, but not one that was given to literary flourish. He did his job, explained the issue, explained his answer, and left it either to the parties or to the appellate court. Except in Tribune, where he opens it with a fable. The fable is the fox and the scorpion. And the idea is that the scorpion and the fox are looking to cross a river, but they're enemies. The scorpion knows a place that's safe to cross. The fox doesn't know it. And this is the opening couple paragraphs of the opinion. And the scorpion says, look, I'll tell you where it is if you let me ride across. And the fox says, but we're enemies and you could kill me. And the scorpion says, well, I wouldn't kill you. That would kill both of us because I can't swim. So the fox says, okay. And they start paddling across, and halfway through, the scorpion stings the fox. And as they're sinking, the fox says, why would you do that? And the scorpion responds, it is better that we should both perish rather than my enemy should live. He says, there is no moral to this story. Its meaning lies in the exposition of an inescapable fact of human character, the willingness to visit harm upon others, even at one's own peril. I have been sick of lawyers at times, but I've never been sick enough from a collection of lawyers to write that.
Not yet.
Yeah, I was involved in that case, and I sat through that trial. And one of the things that made an impression on me then, and that has stayed since I became a judge, is the number of difficult situations and difficult decisions he had to make over the course of that trial, including dealing with some behavior that he probably handled more gracefully than I might have attempted to. But it says so much about him, and the way that he could handle all sorts of really difficult and contentious issues and really get to the heart of the matter. And at the time, he was very involved, getting very involved in the leadership of ABI, and so was I. And he called me back into chambers one day to talk about just something with ABI, and I remarked to him that this seemed awfully intimidating. Two competing plans that he was having a trial over, and he said, "This is where all the fun is," and he's right. But that's why he was so well suited to be the judge that he was.
I think that's right. Mark, were you in Tribune?
I was not, but while you're talking about confirmation stories, I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention New Century and how I got him reversed. We had a contentious New Century confirmation hearing, and the judge dealt with a whole bunch of issues before, and then he ultimately got the case reversed. He said, I got it reversed, but it was reversed. He called us into chambers and gave me a look. And basically the look was, okay, now how are you getting me out of this, right? And with that look, I knew I had to do three things. I had to settle with the parties that were appealing. I had to do a new plan, and I had to get it done quickly. And I had to, because the district court didn't understand equitable mootness, I had to keep in place the trustee, even in light of the reversal of confirmation. It was not easy, and he said, well, I'll see you back next week. I hope it's all done. And we got it done, and to his credit, we ultimately got the case confirmed, and the case that he didn't want to convert ultimately distributed almost 60 cents to creditors because he had the fortitude to keep going forward. And that's why he was the judge he is.
Another one of his cases was Citadel, and I think you were in that.
I have the greatest admiration for Judge Carey on every level, but that was one case where I thought he really embarrassed himself. And if you want an idea of why, go and look who the losing attorney was in that case. Right here. Judge Goldblatt has since vindicated me. But no, I lost, but I understood, and he heard us very, very fairly, and his decision made a lot of sense at the time. Oh, one thing I do want to add before we move on to the other parts, and Harvey, of course, will remember this. It was about 13 months ago that he was in this room and spoke on the retired judges at lunch, and I sat at the table over there and had lunch with him, and it was the last time that I had the opportunity to sit with Kevin before he passed. And so Kevin did mean a lot to me, and for that reason, this event and this room means great to me. I'm happy to be here today, Lord.
Agreed. So Kevin had, I think, over 200 published opinions, and they are all cited regularly in our courts, certainly, but in courts around the country. One of his, to get very technical, one of his actually leading opinions on a very technical issue is on the landlord lease cap issue under 502b6 in the Filene's case. And
I lost that one too.
you lost that one. This is like your greatest hits here. Why didn't you sign up?
I was American Classic Warriors too, by the way.
I was about to get to that.
I know.
So there are shockingly few opinions on an issue that comes up so often about how to calculate the lease rejection damages claim of the landlord. It happens 100 times in every retail case, but it happens in almost every case. And his opinion really laid out a blueprint for how to approach that. And I think it's fitting to kind of start and finish with the Tribune and his rhetorical flourish in such a complex case, and then, frankly, the service that he provided to the bankruptcy community and to the bar by publishing an opinion on again, just an intractably thorny and difficult statutory provision, and providing a clear and a simple roadmap. So we're going to turn to our other topics now, but I just want to say what a privilege it had been for me to serve with him, and I certainly miss the opportunity to call him and get some advice or to talk me off the ledge every once in a while, because that was a particular strength that he had.
Mark, just so you don't feel alone, I lost in filings to Judge Carey as well, and I can't remember what the issue was offhand, but I learned a valuable lesson. Whatever the issue was, we decided that we were going to put one argument in a footnote instead of putting it in the body of our brief, and lost the argument, filed a motion for reconsideration, which I'm sure judges really appreciate, and tried to argue the point that was in the footnote. And the look that I got from Judge Carey about that's not part of the brief, that's not part of the argument. You put it in a footnote, I don't read it. So it was a good lesson.
I remember that look well. Well, thank you. That was very nice and a nice tribute. Although I had been practicing before Judge Carey for a number of years, I first met him on a personal level when we began the New York Institute of Credit Philly event as the Villanova event over 16 years ago. He was one of the first judges that appeared on the Views from the Bench panel, and he's been a steadfast supporter of the New York Institute of Credit since then. I also got friendly with Judge Carey as we rose up the ranks at TMA together, and we had a lot of good times together in building the relationships with TMA and the chapters and the organization. Kevin has been really dedicated to the restructuring profession, to the professional, to the young professional, to their education. And he really was also just a good person. As I told the story, when I first met Kevin here, I had mentioned that my children, I had 3 daughters in Villanova at the time, and he immediately pulled out his wallet, gave me a card, and gave me his phone numbers, and told me if my children ever needed anything, since I was 2 hours away, just give me his phone number, and he'd take care of whatever he could. He was that kind of a guy, and as a judge, he was top notch. Judge Carey always took a pragmatic approach to issues to make sure the best solution was achieved. He wasn't necessarily concerned with rendering a decision, but achieving a result. He made sure everybody
had a fair shake in his courtroom, and he really was a good jurist who really knew how to run his courtroom and move his cases along to the desired result.
I consider myself extremely blessed to have known Judge Kevin Carey, to have counted him as a cherished colleague and friend. We go back many years. We worked on many panels together. What I recall of Judge Carey is not just his supreme intellect, but his incredible warmth. He treated everyone with that same level of friendship and collegiality. And he was just a joy to know and to be around. I loved to see him with his wife Denise, whom he loved dearly, and I loved when he spoke of his family. He set standards for judicial scholarship in our court, which I believe was unmatched. Certainly his scholarship will be his legacy, but more than that, I think will be the friendships that he made, the mentorships that came with knowing him. He brings a smile to my face every time I think of him. And again, I just want to honor him. His memory will always be with us in the bankruptcy court. And I am again supremely glad to have been able to be part of his orbit, if only for on an unlimited basis and during from time to time. So God bless him, God bless Denise, God bless his family. And we will speak of him often. And as I said, his legacy is one that's going to live on forever, as long as people read bankruptcy opinions and speak of our court. They'll speak about the Honorable Kevin Carey. Thank you.
My name's Robert Katz. I'm a managing director at Eisner Amper, and I've known His Honor Judge Carey for over 25 years. He is one of the nicest, warmest people I have known throughout my life. Nobody is a judge without being really smart and a great lawyer, but Kevin was way beyond that. He was just a dear, wonderful person. One of my favorite stories about Kevin is one of our colleagues met him at the supermarket. It was a summer day. We were both wearing shorts and a t-shirt and flip-flops. And the colleague said, "Your Honor, how are you?" And Kevin looked at him like our fathers looked at us and said, "We're on the weekend. It's Sunday. You can call me Kevin." And again, another one of my favorite stories is we're out at dinner and one of our other colleagues asked Kevin about an active case. And Kevin, like our father, would roll his eyes and say, "Now you know I can't talk about an active case." And the person said, "I knew that, but I just wanted to see." We miss him dearly. He'll always be in our hearts. So with that, thank you. And thanks for the opportunity to let you know how much we love Kevin.
I first met Judge Carey when he volunteered to be a visiting judge in Delaware because at that point there were only 2 judges sitting in Delaware and the courts were overloaded. So I first appeared before him on a number of cases in Delaware. And then I was fortunate to sit on several panels at ABI and New York Institute of Credit, ABF events, on several views from the bench panels with Judge Carey. Judge Carey has always been a generous person with his time. He's been generous to me. When I was a young lawyer, he always asked how I was doing. He asked what I was working on. And I always appreciated that and the little tidbits of advice that he had given me over the years. He also told me a funny story how he first learned how to become a judge, which apparently was in 6th grade when he was umpiring a softball game, and learned very quickly that no matter what call he made, there was going to be one group that was satisfied and one group that was dissatisfied. So he brought that tenet to the bench many years later. But I appreciate all the times I had with Judge Carey. He was very personable. He was always caring. He's always generous with his time. And I talked before today's panel with several of my colleagues who clerked for Judge Carey, and they echoed the same sentiment. They said he was fun. They said he always took the time to teach them. They said he always put a lot of importance into building the next generation of attorneys, and I think Judge Carey's legacy will live on for a long time to come as a result of the person he was.